Welcome to the Metal Matt Podcast, and today we have a very exciting episode for you today. I'm going to count down my top 10 Simpsons episodes, and is that going to be fun? Of course it is. And I'm ready. I've got my red Kool-Aid right here beside me. Wink, wink. But first, we are going to talk about some music news. Not necessarily music news, just all the news that I want to talk about. You hear me? I want to talk about. So here we go. And first of all, I wanted to mention a very special place. It might as well be the best place on the internet because it is the best place on the internet, Chuckys Playground. A great forum for every Chucky fan, even non-Chucky fans. Even if you're not a Chucky fan, you can still have fun here with us. I'll post a link in the description as always. We write fanfics. We talk about all 6 Chucky movies, other movies that don't have anything to do with Chucky, music, TV, we just talk about it all. So if you want a place to hang out, why not Chucky's Playground? Because it is the best place on the internet as I speak. So go ahead and I'll see you in the playground. And I'm going to go ahead and return the favor. And I want to mention a podcast that 2 great friends of mine just did. It's called Movie Mayhem with Spanky and G. And they just did their first episode yesterday. And it was a great episode. Thanks for the shout out. I love you too as well. And they're just great. They're also contributors on the playground. And their podcast, they just did a podcast on Pinocchio's Revenge. And I honestly thought that they were going to hate it. But it turns out they actually kind of liked it. So, yeah. And they were great. They have great chemistry. And they were like Brangelina, man. Let me tell you, they were like Brangelina because they just had great chemistry. So definitely check out their podcast, Movie Mayhem with Spanky and G. Go listen to it. It's 42 minutes, but it is definitely worth the time to check it out because it's really good. And Avengers Sevenfold recently went gold with their new album, Hail to the King. And while I wasn't a huge fan of that particular album, going gold, especially nowadays, is not an easy feat. And it's a pretty rare thing to do nowadays. So I have to tip my imaginary hat off to Avengers Sevenfold. And Sin City 2 is coming out, and it is going to be absolutely magnificent, I think. I cannot wait to see this movie. I think it's going to be really cool. And I'm not sure if it will be able to top the first one. And I really like the first one. But we'll see as we go along. The Hobbit 3 is coming out. I've seen the first. I saw the first Hobbit. I kind of liked it. The first half I wasn't really feeling. Just kind of going slow. The second half I really liked, especially when Gollum came into it. And, okay. I didn't see the second one. I saw the first few minutes of the second one, but I just kind of got bored by it, so I just decided not to. If it comes on like HBO or something like that, I'll catch it. And I don't really think that they should have split up into 3 movies because it just kind of feels like overlong that way. They should have just done it in one movie. Either way, this is interesting, and it'll finally be the end of the Hobbit series. And is there a new Marilyn Manson album on the horizon? It sure looks that way. It's being said that in October, Marilyn Manson might release a new album. And that would be pretty cool, because I do like Marilyn Manson. And I'm a big fan of his. And they might release a single in a couple of days, and I'm not sure, but that's what's been going around. I think the song "Cupid's Got a Gun" or something like that. That's like the theme song to like Salem or something. I've never heard of that show, but it will be interesting to see if Marilyn Manson does release a new album this year. And finally, Quentin Tarantino will be starting back production up on this movie, The Hateful Eight. It was originally shut down due to the script leaking earlier this year, but he decided to change his mind and go back. And I think it's going to be really interesting. because I do like Quentin Tarantino. Pulp Fiction is one of my favorite movies of all time, so it's going to be really cool to see. And now the news is over, and now it's time for Shoot the Shuffle. Number 1, Peter Criss, You Matter to Me. Great song off his 78 solo album. In 1978, all 4 Kiss members did a solo album. And I think Ace's was the best. Peter's was, I kind of say the worst, but I actually think Gene's was the worst, but that's just me. Anyway, this is a really cool, jazzy, kind of disco-esque song. Number 2, Kidney Thieves, Crazy. Of course, we all know why I love that song. Because it was in what I like to call the greatest movie ever made. The greatest piece of cinema ever put on screen. Bride of Chucky. That's why I love it so much. Because it was featured in Bride of Chucky. My favorite movie of all time. And the greatest movie ever made. Period. Number 3. Velvet Revolver. Sucker Train Blues. This is a really cool song. And a great opener to your 2004 debut album, Contraband. Number 4, Jim Johnson, Blue Blood. This was Triple H's first name, back when he was known as Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Very calming, very soothing, very classical. Number 5, Seether, Careless Whisper. Their cover of Wham is really cool. Number 6, The Runaways, You're Too Possessive. This is a really cool song, and Joan Jett would later cover this on a 1982 album, I Love Rock and Roll. Number 7, Led Zeppelin, Achilles' Last Stand. Great 10-11 minute song, and it's a really epic song. Number 8, Metallica, Blackened. The intro to And Justice for All, and it really gets the album started on a high note. Number 9, Guns N' Roses, Knocking on Heaven's Door. This is a really good song. A really good cover of Bob Dylan. And finally, number 10, Slayer, Bloodline. I think this is from their 2001 album, God Hates Us All. And I think that's a bit of an underrated album. And it's really pounding, kind of mid-tempo, but also just heavy song at the same time. And so now Shoot the Shuffle is over. And now it's time for my top 10 favorite Simpsons episodes. And one thing I want to clarify with this is that this was a tough list to do. And because Simpsons is my favorite show of all time, so it was definitely tough. And I just want to clarify that the Treehouse of Horror episodes will not be on the list. Because if I did put them on the list, they would take up over half of the list. So I would just put them as honorable mentions because I do love the Treehouse of Horror ones. And another thing I want to mention, another honorable mention, is the episode Homie the Clown from season 6. And that's a great episode, but ultimately I just like these 10 episodes a little bit more. Homer decides to go to clown college as Krusty is in debt, and he invents a college to kind of get him back on track. And Homer becomes the Krusty the Clown impersonator in Springfield. Fat Tony and his gang go and look for Krusty. Turns out it's really Homer in case of mistaken identity, and just mayhem just happens. And it's a really good episode. So now it's on to the top 10. Number 10, Homer to Smithers from season 7. This is a really cool episode that I was surprised it didn't happen sooner, like in season 3 or 4 or something like that, because it just has that classic feel of The Simpsons. Mr. Smithers is feeling overworked, and so Mr. Burns orders him to take a vacation. And Smithers decides to choose someone that won't outshine him. And of course, that person turns out to be Homer. And Homer pretty much gets abused by Mr. Burns until Homer just punches out Mr. Burns. And Burns discovers to do things for himself now. Like he drives on the sidewalk, he calls people, stuff like that. And when Smithers comes back, that he has no need for him anymore, so he decides to get rid of him. this is a really funny episode, especially near the end with the Clockwork Orange reference when Mr. Burns is falling down. It's just great. Number 9, Lemon of Troy. And this is a really cool episode that showcases the town of Shelbyville. And I think it's the first time we ever saw Shelbyville. It's been mentioned in several episodes beforehand, but this is the first time that we ever got to see it. And I love how Shelbyville is pretty much the antithesis of Springfield. They have alternate versions of Milhouse, Bart, even Homer. And the Shelbyville Homer has a very Walter Matthau-like voice, which is pretty funny. And it's funny to see all the parents and the kids come together and try to get back their lemon tree. Because the Shelbyville kids steal their lemon tree, which prompts Bart, who is filled with town pride because of Marge, decides to go back and So yeah, Lemon of Troy lands at number 9 on top 10 favorite Simpsons episodes. Number 8, Behind the Laughter. This is a really interesting episode. This is from season 11, and it is kind of weird because the Simpsons pretty much know that they're in a TV show, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the series. It's just a fun little episode. And it parodies VH1's Behind the Music, which was really popular back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so it kind of has like all the drama and all the weird, I can't remember what it's called, but the narrator will always compare the situation to something really weird. And the Simpsons fame would be in air like a plastic bag caught in an updraft or something to the nature of that. And so just a really fun episode to do, and it's fun to kind of see the Simpsons kind of go out of character for once. And number 7, When You Dish Upon a Star from season 10. This is a kind of a weird episode because it's not an episode that people talk a lot about, but I think it's really funny. It's guest stars Kim Basinger or however you say her name, and Alec Baldwin back when they were still married, as well as Ron Howard. And Homer crash lands into their house, and he becomes their assistant. And it's just really funny to kind of see Homer try and hide a secret. And, of course, he doesn't end it very well. And, like, Homer almost kills Ron Howard. And it's like, and Homer at the very end is like, if you don't want people pawing through your garbage or saying they're gay, they shouldn't have tried to express themselves creatively. And just the animation of Marge and Lisa with their hands covering their face is just really funny because it is something that only Homer would say. And so it's definitely funny. And just the kind of jabs at Alec Baldwin never having won an Oscar is also funny as well. So this is a great episode. Number 6, Homer's Enemy from season 8. This is definitely the darkest the Simpsons have ever gotten. It revolves around a character named Frank Grimes who goes to work at the nuclear power plant alongside Homer. And instantly he just hates Homer. He hates his attitude, work ethic, just the way that he is. And no matter how hard Homer tries to impress him, it just never works. And the ending is also great as well. Great, hilariously dark. And I don't want to give it away because it is hilarious. And it's just something that you have to see for yourself. So number 5, Last Exit to Springfield. I wouldn't say this. A lot of people say that this is their favorite or the best Simpsons episode. I wouldn't go that far, but it's definitely very good. Homer becomes the leader of the union at work, and Lisa needs braces, and Homer doesn't have a dental plan at work, so he forms the union to get the dental plan back. And just the negotiations between him and Mr. Burns are just priceless. Like, Mr. Burns is like, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And Homer's like, oh my God, he is coming on to me. So it's just really funny. And I like the Homer plot better than the Lisa plot, but that's just me. And I don't think it's the best episode of The Simpsons, but it's one of the best. Number 4, Trilogy of Error. This is a really cool episode because it's parodied in the movie Run Lola Run, and another movie that I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's told from the point of view of the three characters: Homer for the first act, Lisa for the second act, and Bart for the third act. In the first act, Homer's thumb gets accidentally cut off by Marge, and he tries to get it back, but he doesn't. In the second act, Lisa attempts to get to school for her science project, but accidentally goes to another Springfield elementary school, and she gets her mom Marge to go with her, and all kinds of shenanigans happen. In the third one, Bart and Milhouse find a cave full of stolen fireworks. And it's really interesting because it's all told from their points of view. And at times in the episode, the same thing will happen over again. And it's just a really cool concept. Number 3, Team Homer. This is, hold on, I gotta get this out. Lobster harmonica! Sorry, I just needed to get that out. I knew some people would appreciate that line. So, Homer, Moe, Apu, and initially Otto start a bowling team. And then Otto gets replaced by Mr. Burns as Homer needs a certain amount of money to actually sponsor the team. And so he gets to Mr. Burns, who is doped up from some type of medical experiment. And it's really funny because Mr. Burns mistakes him for the Pillsbury Doughboy, and just the animation on it is really good. And Homer is like, hey, if you want to ask Mr. Burns for a favor or something, now's the time. He's doped up or dying or something. And Moman's like, I need a certain amount of money for push of primary bristling. And Mr. Burns is like, oh, you're that delightful leprechaun. I'm going to get you Lucky Charms. And he gets like this drill, and the woman's like, oh no, my brains. And it's just hilariously dark because I love it when something bad happens to Mole Man. And then there's another great line about Mr. Burns, who pretty much does a full turn in this. He kind of becomes kind of a good guy. And then it's like, Homer and the team is like, we need to win that championship. And Mr. Burns is like, the only ship that matters is friendship. And he makes a paper mache boat. He puts it in Homer's beer. Then it sinks down. And Mr. Burns is like, oh, I think I lost a nail. Oh, well, that's leprosy for you. It's just really funny. And it's full of great lines. Another great line is when Homer is talking about the team that they beat. It's like, yeah, Mo, they sure did suck. Yeah, I've seen teams suck before, but they were the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked. It's just great. There's a lot of great lines in this, and Otto throughout the episode is really funny as well. And at one point, like I said, he's going for that lobster harmonica. And at another point in time, he's also in the vending machine trying to win a Harvard diploma, which is just great. But he could have just gone to Harvard and gotten high with Red Man and Method Man. But I guess doing that way is easier as well. So that's Team Homer is definitely one of my favorite episodes. Top 3, definitely. Number 2, Bart Carney. Much like When You Dish Upon a Star, this is a really underrated episode, I think. It's not one that a lot of people talk about, but it's really good. Homer, the entire family goes to the carnival. So Bart crashes Hitler's car, and the rich Texan makes him and Homer work in the carnival to pay off the damages. And they meet a Carney father and son named Cooter. And Cooter is voiced by the late Jim Varney, who is probably best known for his role as Slinky Dog in the Toy Story movies and as Ernest in all the Ernest movies. And he does a great job in this one. when Homer and Bart accidentally get their game closed down, because Chief Wiggum is like, I've heard that this game is crooked, and he's like, okay, I'm looking for my friend Mr. Bill, and like Homer has no idea what he's talking about, and Wiggum is like, okay, I will say this nice and slow. The guy I'm really looking for is a Mr. Bribe. Wink, wink. It's a ring toss game. And so the Cooter family goes and lives with the Simpsons, and they pretty much hijack the house and kick the Simpsons out. And it's really funny to see someone else in Homer's clothes, and Cooter comes out in Homer's clothes. They're really overgrown on him. And it's like, wow, Dad, you look like James Bond. And then off screen, the Simpsons are in the treehouse, and they can overhear them talking. And Cooter's like, that Urkel is a real hoot. It's just a really funny episode that not a lot of people talk about, and it's really underrated, and I definitely recommend it because it's really good. And finally, number 1, 22 short films about Springfield. 22 short films about Springfield is my favorite episode of The Simpsons. It's just really good, and it's kind of a Pulp Fiction kind of like story. It kind of parodies Pulp Fiction directly at some points. It revolves around several characters who all go throughout their day, and it's like short stories, Like Apu has one, Bart and Milhouse have one, Nelson has one with a really tall guy, and Skinner and the Superintendent Chalmers have one, and that's my favorite part of the entire episode. Anytime Superintendent Chalmers and Skinner interact in any episode, it's bound to be entertaining, and this one is probably the most entertaining of all. And Skinner constantly is making up lies to Chalmers. He's lying to him, and Chalmers believes him. He believes him every time. And Skinner at one point sets the kitchen on fire, and Chalmers is like, "Good Lord, what in the world is that?" And Skinner's like, "Aurora Borealis." Chalmers is like, "Aurora Borealis at this time of year in this place of the country localized entirely within your kitchen." Skinner's like, "Yes." Chalmers, "Can I see it?" Skinner, "No." I mean, it's just really funny, and it gets to interact with a lot of characters that you normally wouldn't. That's just my favorite Simpsons episode. It's really groundbreaking, really innovative, ambitious, and it's just really good. So definitely check this out. So that's all my top 10 Simpsons episodes for me. This was I love this show with a passion, and so I definitely check this. I definitely check these 10 episodes out because they're definitely worth watching. And so now it's time to announce a special project for the Metal Matt podcast. And this is something I was inspired by the Nostalgia Critic to do. And for the next week, and actually before I do that, I was listening to Spanky and G's amazing podcast, and I was just, I was really, I'm not sure what's the word I'm looking for here. Well, I was hearing them talk about Pinocchio's Revenge, and I was just thinking about Pinocchio's Revenge, and Pinocchio's Revenge made me think of Pinocchio, which made me think of Disney. And I always thought that, you know what, I love Disney, and I've seen all of the movies, all the animated movies. I might as well review them all on here. So for the next week, that's what I'm going to do. From Snow White to Frozen, I will review every Disney animated feature that went to theaters. And I'll put a list, maybe in the description, as to what all movies I'm going to do. But for the next week, for the first video, it's going to be 30s and 40s. Second video, 50s. Next video, 60s. Next video, 70s and 80s. Next video, 90s. Next video, 2000s. And next video, 2010s. So it's going to be a full week of Disney movies. And I'm not sure if I'll update it every day, but I'm going to try to update it every day. So it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to. And I cannot wait to do this. And it's going to be a really amazing project. Thanks for watching / listening, and I'll see you then.